Hi, my name is Olivia Carter. I'm 22 years old and I live in Chicago, Illinois. I'm a university student studying business administration. Since childhood, I've been fascinated by languages, and English has always been my favorite. I understand it well. I can read books, watch movies without subtitles, and even write essays fluently. But when it comes to speaking, I freeze. It's frustrating. People assume that if you understand English, you should be able to speak it effortlessly. But for me, speaking has always been a struggle. My mind goes blank. Words don't come out naturally, and when they do, they don't sound right. I feel nervous, self-conscious, and afraid of making mistakes. Today, I want to share my journey, how I've dealt with this struggle, how it has affected my life, and what I've learned. Maybe you're going through the same thing, and if so, I want you to know that you're not alone. Growing up in Chicago, English was everywhere. My parents, David and Emily Carter, are both native speakers. But at home, we spoke Spanish because my grandparents were originally from Mexico. My parents always encouraged me to learn English, and I did. By the time I was in middle school, I was fluent in reading and writing. But speaking? That was different. At school, I stayed quiet during discussions. Whenever the teacher asked me to answer a question, I felt my heart race. Even though I knew the answer, I was too nervous to say it out loud. I worried about my pronunciation, about whether my sentences were correct, about how my classmates would react. In high school, I made a few close friends, Sophia, my best friend, and James, who later became my boyfriend. Both were native English speakers, and they never judged me. But even with them, I hesitated. I would text them in perfect English, but when we met in person, I struggled to speak naturally. Then came university. Studying business meant I had to participate in discussions, give presentations, and interact with professors and classmates. That's when I realized I couldn't avoid speaking anymore. It wasn't just about English, it was about my confidence, my self-perception. One of the hardest moments came during my first semester. My professor, Dr. Anderson, asked me to present a case study in front of the class. I had prepared everything. My slides were perfect, my notes were detailed, but the moment I stood in front of everyone, panic set in. My voice trembled, my hands shook, and worst of all, I forgot my words. It was as if my brain had shut down. I rushed through the presentation, barely making eye contact, and sat down feeling humiliated. That night, I cried. I told my mom I wanted to drop the course. "I can't do this," I said. "I understand English, but I can't speak it like everyone else." She looked at me gently and said, "Olivia, you're overthinking. Speaking isn't about perfection, it's about communication. No one expects you to be perfect, just to express yourself." That stayed with me, but change didn't happen overnight. I started practicing small steps. First, I forced myself to speak more with Sophia and James. Whenever we hung out, I made an effort to talk instead of just listening. At first, I stumbled. I made mistakes, but they were patient. One day, James told me, "Olivia, we don't care if you make mistakes. We just want to hear what you have to say." That gave me a boost. Then I tried speaking with strangers. Ordering coffee at Starbucks used to be a nightmare. I would rehearse my order in my head a dozen times before saying it, but I started pushing myself. One day, I went to a coffee shop near campus and told myself, no overthinking, just say it. I walked up to the counter and said, "Hi, can I get a caramel latte, please?" It was such a simple sentence, but it felt like a victory. Little by little, I got better. I also started practicing with language exchange partners. I found a website where people practice English with native speakers. I connected with a girl from New York named Rachel. We started video calling once a week. At first, I was nervous, but Rachel was so friendly that I slowly started feeling comfortable. Another turning point was joining a student club. One of my professors suggested that I join the debate team to improve my confidence. It sounded terrifying, but I took a chance. The first few meetings were difficult. I barely spoke. But over time, I started participating. I realized that when I focused on the topic, rather than my fear of making mistakes, my words flowed more naturally. By my second year of university, I noticed a huge change. I wasn't afraid to speak up in class anymore. I wasn't perfect, but I no longer cared. I started focusing on expressing myself rather than avoiding mistakes. One day, Dr. Anderson stopped me after class and said, "Olivia, I've seen your progress. Your presentations have improved so much. You should be proud." That moment meant everything. Now, I won't say that my fear of speaking is completely gone. I still get nervous sometimes. But I've learned that fluency isn't just about knowing a language. It's about using it, even when you're scared. One day, something happened that made me truly realize how much I had changed. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I was at a bookstore near campus, browsing through some novels. A woman, probably in her mid-30s, approached me with a worried look on her face. She was holding her phone and looked like she was struggling with something. "Excuse me," she said hesitantly. "Do you speak Spanish?" I nodded. "Yes, I do." Her face lit up with relief. "Oh, thank God! My English is not very good, and I need help. I need to return this book, but I don't understand what the cashier is saying." I followed her to the front desk. The cashier, a young guy, was explaining the store's return policy, but the woman looked confused. I took a deep breath and translated everything into Spanish for her. She smiled and nodded. Then she spoke in Spanish, and I translated her response back into English for the cashier. This small conversation lasted only a few minutes, but when it was over, the woman grabbed my hands and said, "You don't know how much this helped me. Thank you so much." As I walked out of the store, I couldn't stop smiling. Just a year ago, I would have been too afraid to even attempt speaking in a public situation like that. But now, I had helped someone simply by using my voice. The realization that changed everything that moment taught me something valuable. Speaking English isn't about being perfect. It's about communication. For years, I was trapped by my own fear. I worried about my grammar, my accent, what people would think of me. But in reality, people just want to understand you. They're not judging every mistake you make. After that bookstore experience, I started noticing more opportunities to practice. One day, my university organized a networking event where students could meet professionals from different industries. A year ago, I would have avoided it, but this time I told myself, just go and try. I walked in, heart pounding, but I reminded myself of what I had learned. Communication matters more than perfection. I introduced myself to a woman named Lisa, who worked at a marketing firm. She asked me about my studies, and I started explaining. At first, I felt nervous, but then I just focused on the conversation. We ended up talking for 15 minutes, and before I left, she gave me her business card and said, "You're confident, Olivia. I like that. Let's stay in touch." Confident? Me? I realized something important. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build by taking small steps, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, and proving to yourself that you can do it. The day I knew I had overcome my fear by my third year of university, I was no longer the girl who avoided speaking. I was participating in class discussions, making new friends, and even helping other students who were struggling with English. Then came the biggest test of all, a group project where I had to present in front of 200 students. When my professor announced the presentation, I felt a familiar wave of anxiety, but instead of running from it, I faced it. I practiced for weeks. I stood in front of my mirror, recorded myself speaking, and even asked James to listen and give me feedback. The day of the presentation, I walked up to the stage, took a deep breath, and started speaking. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. I just spoke, like I would in a normal conversation. When I finished, the audience clapped. My professor smiled. And in that moment, I felt something I had never felt before. Pride. I had done it. A message for anyone struggling. If you're like me, if you understand English but struggle to speak it, please know this. You are not alone, and you are not incapable. Your fear of speaking isn't because you're not good enough. It's because you're afraid of making mistakes. But mistakes are how you learn. Start small. Talk to friends. Order food in English. Join a club. Practice with strangers. Push yourself. And most importantly, don't wait until you feel ready. Because the truth is, you'll never feel 100% ready. You just have to start. Even though I had come so far, I knew my journey wasn't over. Language learning is not something that has an ending. It's a lifelong process. Even native speakers learn new words and expressions every day. After my big presentation, I felt a huge shift in my confidence. But I also knew that I needed to keep practicing. If I stopped pushing myself, I might fall back into my old fears. So I kept going. I started working part-time at a local cafe near campus. It was a small, cozy place, always filled with students and professionals grabbing their morning coffee. Working there meant I had to talk to customers every day, take orders, and answer questions. At first, it felt scary. What if I misheard someone? What if I didn't understand their accent? But I reminded myself, I had already come so far. I had spoken in front of 200 people. Taking coffee orders should be nothing in comparison, right? Of course, I still made mistakes. One time, a customer asked for a mocha with almond milk, and I accidentally wrote it down as matcha with oat milk. When I handed it to him, he gave me a confused look and said, this isn't what I ordered." I panicked for a moment, but then I laughed and said, "Oops, my mistake. Let me fix that for you." He laughed too. "No problem. It happens." That was the moment I realized something important. People don't care if you make small mistakes. No one expects you to be perfect. They just want to communicate. Stepping into the real world. As graduation got closer, I started thinking about my future. My dream was to work in a big company, but I knew that would mean interviews, more speaking, more challenges. I applied to several internships, and after a few weeks, I got an email from a marketing firm called Brightwave Strategies. They wanted to interview me for a summer internship position. My first reaction? Excitement. My second reaction? Fear. I had never done a formal interview before. What if I froze? What if I couldn't express myself? I spent the next few days preparing. I practiced answering common interview questions, recorded myself speaking, and even did mock interviews with James. On the day of the interview, I walked into their office, my heart pounding. The interviewer, a woman named Laura, smiled and said, "Tell me about yourself." For a split second, my mind went blank. But then I took a deep breath and reminded myself, just speak. I started talking about my studies, my part-time job, my experiences. I didn't rush. I focused on the conversation, not my fear. By the end of the interview, Laura smiled and said, "You're confident, Olivia." I like that. A few days later, I got the email. I got the internship. The unexpected challenge that changed everything. Just when I thought I had conquered my fear of speaking English, life decided to test me in a way I never expected. It happened on a Friday afternoon. I had just finished my shift at the cafe and was about to head home when my phone rang. It was James. "Olivia, are you busy?" he asked, sounding excited. "Not really. What's up?" "You remember my cousin Ethan? He's visiting from New York. He's with a group of international students, and they need someone to guide them around the city. I thought you'd be perfect for it." I froze. Guide a group of international students? Me? Speaking English the whole time? "James, I don't know." I hesitated. "Come on, Olivia." "You're great at this now. You'll be fine," he encouraged. A part of me wanted to say no, to run away from the situation. But another part of me, the part that had worked so hard to get here, knew this was my chance to prove to myself that I was ready. So I took a deep breath and said, "Okay, I'll do it." A day of surprises. The next morning, I met the group at a central park in the city. There were about 10 of them, all from different countries: Japan, France, Brazil, and Germany. Ethan introduced me as their guide, and suddenly, all eyes were on me. For a moment, I felt the old fear creeping back. What if I forget my words? What if I embarrass myself? But then I remembered. Communication is more important than perfection. So I smiled and started speaking. "Welcome to our city. I'm Olivia, and today I'll be showing you some cool places." To my surprise, no one cared about my accent or my grammar. They were just happy to listen and excited to explore. As we walked through the streets, I told them stories about the landmarks, shared fun facts, and even cracked a few jokes. They laughed, asked questions, and before I knew it, I was speaking naturally, without overthinking. Then something really unexpected happened. We entered a small, family-owned restaurant for lunch, and as we sat down, a man at the next table overheard our conversation. He turned to me and said, Excuse me, are you the guide for this group? Yes, I replied, a little unsure why he was asking. He smiled. I run a language exchange program, and we're always looking for confident speakers to help international students practice English. You have a great way of explaining things. Would you be interested in joining our team? I blinked in shock. Was this really happening? I had spent years struggling to speak English, and now someone was telling me that I was good at it, that they wanted me to help others. I couldn't believe it. I looked at James, who was grinning at me, and then back at the man. I'd love to, I said, my voice steady. The moment I realized I had won that night, as I lay in bed replaying the day in my mind, I smiled to myself. I had spent so many years afraid to speak, but today I had led a group, answered questions, made people laugh, and even got offered an opportunity because of my English skills. I had won, not against other people, but against my own fear. And that was the greatest victory of all. How to overcome the fear of speaking English. Tips and tricks. If you understand English but struggle to speak, you are not alone. Many learners face this challenge, and the biggest reason is not a lack of knowledge. It's fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of being judged, or fear of not finding the right words. But here's the truth. You don't need to be perfect to communicate. You just need to practice. In this guide, I will share detailed tips and tricks that helped me go from being afraid to speak to confidently, holding conversations in English. 1. Change your mindset. It's okay to make mistakes. Why is this important? Many people think, I can't speak English until I'm perfect. But waiting for perfection is the biggest mistake. Even native speakers make mistakes when speaking. What matters is communication, not perfection. What should you do? Accept that mistakes are part of learning. Every mistake helps you improve. Focus on being understood, not on speaking perfectly. Instead of saying, I am not good at English, say, I am improving every day. Example. Imagine you say, yesterday I go to the market. Someone might correct you, yesterday I went to the market. That's okay? Now you learned the correct way and won't forget it. 2. Start speaking, even if it's small conversations. Why is this important? If you never practice speaking, you will never improve. Many learners only read and write in English, but they never actually speak. What should you do? Start small. Speak to yourself in English about your day. Talk to a friend who speaks English or find a language partner. Order food, ask for directions, or do small conversations in English. Example. Instead of just thinking in your native language, try saying, Today, I will practice English. I will go to the store and ask, Do you have this item? I will talk to my friend about my weekend. Even 30 seconds of speaking every day will help you improve. 3. Listen and copy. Learn like a child. Why is this important? Children learn a language by listening and copying, not by studying grammar rules first. You can do the same. What should you do? Listen to English every day. Movies, podcasts, songs. Repeat phrases you hear. Try to copy the tone and pronunciation of native speakers. Example, listen to someone say, How's it going? Instead of just understanding it, repeat it aloud. Say it just like they do. The more you listen and copy, the more natural your speaking will become. 4. Think in English instead of translating. Why is this important? If you always translate from your native language to English, it slows you down and makes speaking harder. What should you do? Start with small thoughts. Instead of thinking, I am hungry in your native language, and then translating, just think I am hungry in English directly. Describe what you see in English. Example, the sky is blue. I see a car. Challenge yourself to think in English for 5 minutes every day. Example, exercise. Look at your room and describe it in English. My room has a bed, a desk, and a window. The walls are white. The more you practice thinking in English, the easier it will be to speak. 5. Use simple sentences. You don't need fancy words. Why is this important? Many people try to speak in complicated sentences and then get stuck. Simple English is still good English. What should you do? Start with simple sentences. Use basic words instead of difficult ones. The goal is clear communication, not showing off vocabulary. Example, instead of saying, I am feeling a sense of profound exhaustion, just say, I am very tired. Instead of, I require assistance, just say, I need help. 6. Practice speaking alone. Before speaking with others. Why is this important? If you feel too nervous to talk to others, start by talking to yourself first. What should you do? Stand in front of a mirror and talk about your day. Record your voice and listen to it. Read English books or news aloud to improve pronunciation. Example, exercise. Every morning, stand in front of the mirror and say, Good morning. Today, I will study English and go to the park. This builds confidence before you start speaking with others. 7. Join English speaking groups or clubs. Why is this important? The more you are surrounded by English, the faster you improve. What should you do? Join English clubs or online communities. Participate in group discussions. Talk to native speakers or other learners. Example, join online groups like English conversation groups on Facebook or Discord. Find a local meetup where people practice English together. Speaking in groups reduces fear because everyone is learning together. 8. Use technology to practice every day. Why is this important? You have a phone. Use it to learn English every day. What should you do? Use apps like HelloTalk or Tandem to talk to native speakers. Change your phone's language to English. Watch English YouTube videos with subtitles, then without subtitles. Example, instead of watching movies in your native language, watch them in English. Listen to podcasts while traveling or exercising. The more English you hear and use, the faster you will improve. 9. Challenge yourself every week. Why is this important? If you don't push yourself, you won't grow. What should you do? Set weekly speaking goals. Every week, do something new in English. Celebrate small successes. Example, weekly challenges. Week 1, order food in English. Week 2, talk to a stranger in English. Week 3, join an English speaking group. Week 4, give a short speech, even if it's alone in your room. You've already learned why speaking English feels difficult and how to overcome it. But now, let's go even deeper into real-life strategies that will help you practice, stay motivated, and finally speak English fluently with confidence. 10. Speak with a learning partner. not just any native speaker. Why is this important? Many learners think, I need to talk to a native speaker to improve. While talking to native speakers is great, the best person to practice with is someone patient and helpful, not just any native speaker. Some native speakers might speak too fast, use slang, or not correct their mistakes. But a learning partner, another English learner or a teacher, will help you improve step by step. What should you do? Find a friend, tutor, or language partner who understands your level and helps you improve. Use language exchange apps like HelloTalk, Tandem, or Speaky to find partners. Join an English learning group where people help each other. Example: if you're learning English and your friend is learning your language, practice 30 minutes of English, then 30 minutes of your language. If you find a tutor or mentor, ask them to correct your mistakes kindly and repeat the right way to say things. A good partner can make learning fun and boost your confidence. 11. Use the shadowing technique to sound more natural. Why is this important? Many learners struggle with pronunciation because they don't practice speaking enough. Shadowing helps you speak faster and more naturally. What is shadowing? It's when you listen to an English speaker and repeat exactly what they say at the same time. It helps with checkmark pronunciation, checkmark speaking speed, checkmark intonation, the rise and fall of your voice. How to do shadowing. Choose a short audio, 1 to 2 minutes, from a podcast, movie, or YouTube video. Listen once to understand the meaning. Listen again and repeat every word at the same time as the speaker. Try to copy their pronunciation exactly. Do it 3 to 5 times until you feel comfortable. Example: choose a TED Talk, an English speech, or a short scene from your favorite movie. Play it, repeat every word at the same time, and copy the speaker's tone and speed. After a few weeks, your speaking will sound smoother and more natural. 12th, record yourself and compare your progress. Why is this important? Many learners feel shy because they don't know how they sound in English. But when you record yourself and listen, you will see your progress and correct mistakes. How to do it? Choose a short topic and speak for 1 to 2 minutes. Record yourself on your phone. Listen and check. Do you sound clear? Are there any words you say incorrectly? Can you improve your pronunciation? Try again until you feel better about your speaking. Example: Week 1. Record yourself saying, "My name is your name, and I live in your city. Today I went to work and had lunch with my friend." Particum. Week 4. Compare your new recording with the first one. You will notice big improvements. Recording yourself builds confidence because you see real progress. 13. Learn chunks instead of grammar rules. Why is this important? Grammar rules are useful, but native speakers don't think about grammar while speaking. They use chunks, common phrases. What are chunks? Chunks are groups of words that always go together, making speaking easier and faster. What should you do? Instead of learning individual words, learn common phrases. Practice using phrases for daily conversations instead of trying to translate from your language. Example: instead of learning single words, learn the whole phrase, chunk. Hello? Hey, how's it going? Thank you. I really appreciate it. Can you help me? Could you give me a hand? I don't know. I have no idea. The more phrases you learn, the more natural your English will sound. 14. Watch TV shows and movies in English, but in the right way. Why is this important? Watching English movies helps you learn real-life conversations, slang, and pronunciation. But just watching is not enough. You need to actively learn from them. How to learn English from movies? Step 1. Watch with subtitles in your language to understand. Step 2. Watch again with English subtitles to learn words. Step 3. Watch without subtitles to improve listening. Step 4. Pause and repeat difficult sentences out loud. Best movies, shows for English learners. Friends, casual conversations, American slang. The Big Bang Theory, fast speech, humor. The Office, everyday work conversations. Harry Potter, clear pronunciation. By following this method, you will learn English naturally while enjoying entertainment. 15. Speak English every day. No excuses. Why is this important? The more you speak, the more confident you become. Many learners wait until they feel ready, but the best way to improve is to start now. How to practice speaking every day. Speak for at least 5 minutes daily, even if it's just to yourself. Find a language partner or speak in front of a mirror. Challenge yourself to use new words and phrases. Replace small parts of your daily routine with English. Example, think in English while cooking, or describe things around you in English. Example, every morning say out loud, "Today I will practice speaking English. I am improving every day." If you speak a little bit every day, you will become fluent faster than you think. You are closer than you think. You already understand English. That's the hardest part. You don't need perfect grammar to communicate. You can learn faster by speaking every day. You will improve if you keep going, even when it feels difficult. Remember, fluency is not about knowing every word. It's about confidence and practice. Every time you speak English, you are getting better. I'm glad you're eager to continue. Since we've covered why speaking English feels difficult and detailed strategies to improve, let's now focus on practical daily exercises, real-life challenges, and ways to stay motivated even when progress feels slow. 16. Build a daily speaking routine. The 10-minute rule. Why is this important? Many learners don't practice speaking daily because they feel they need a partner, but you can practice speaking alone and still improve. How to do it? Speak at least 10 minutes every day. Choose a topic and talk out loud, even if no one is listening. Use a voice recorder to track your progress. Example, daily speaking plan. Time activity, morning, describe your plans for the day. Today, I will go to class, study English, and meet my friend. Afternoon, talk about what you're doing. Right now, I am drinking coffee and reading an article. Evening, reflect on your day. Today, I learned 3 new English words. If you do this every day, speaking English will feel natural. 17th. Handle real-life situations in English. Be ready for common scenarios. Why is this important? You don't need to memorize everything. Just learn how to respond in daily situations. Common English conversations to practice. Ordering food at a restaurant. Hi, I'd like a cheeseburger with fries, please. Can I have the bill, please? Talking to a cashier at a store. Do you accept credit cards? Can I get a receipt, please? Introducing yourself to someone new. Hi, my name is your name. Nice to meet you. Where are you from? Making small talk. How's your day going? It's nice weather today. If you practice these common situations, you'll feel confident speaking in real life. 18. Overcome shyness. Speak without fear. Why is this important? Many learners feel afraid of making mistakes, but mistakes are part of learning. How to overcome shyness? Remember, native speakers don't expect perfect grammar. They just want to understand you. Start small. Talk to yourself first, then practice with a friend, then try with a stranger. Use filler words if you need time to think, like, well, you know. Remind yourself, speaking badly is better than not speaking at all. Example, if someone asks, "What do you do?" and you feel nervous instead of staying silent, say, uh, well, I am a student. I study business. And, I want to work in marketing. Even if it's not perfect, you communicated. That's success. 19. Stay motivated, track your progress. Why is this important? When you don't see immediate improvement, it's easy to feel frustrated. Tracking progress keeps you motivated. How to track progress. Keep an English journal. Write one sentence a day about what you did. Make a progress video. Record a video of yourself speaking English every month. Celebrate small wins. If you spoke English with a stranger, that's a victory. Example, Week 1. I can say 5 sentences in English. Week 4. I had a short conversation with a waiter in English. The more progress you see, the more motivated you'll be. 20. Be patient. Fluency takes time. Why is this important? Some learners give up because they expect fluency too quickly. But speaking English is like learning an instrument. It takes daily practice. How to stay patient. Set realistic goals. Instead of, I want to be fluent, say, I want to improve a little every day. Compare yourself to your past self, not to others. Remember, even native speakers make mistakes. Motivation reminder. 1 month. You will feel more confident speaking. 3 months. You will understand more conversations. 6 months. You will speak naturally in daily situations. Keep going. Every word you say in English is progress. Final thoughts. Just start speaking. You already have everything you need to succeed. You understand English. You have strategies. Now, it's time to practice and keep going. Speak every day. Make mistakes without fear. Track your progress. Stay patient and enjoy the journey. Back to story, a new beginning, from fear to helping others. After that unexpected job offer, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Was I really ready to help others learn English? Just a year ago, I was terrified of speaking in public, and now someone thought I was confident enough to teach? James encouraged me to go for it. Olivia, you've already been helping yourself. Now, you can help others. And trust me, teaching will make you even better. So, I took another step outside my comfort zone. I called the man from the restaurant. His name was David, and agreed to meet him at the Language Exchange Center the next weekend. My first day as a language mentor. When I arrived, I expected to see a small classroom with just a few students, but I was wrong. The place was full of people from all over the world, students, professionals, even older adults trying to improve their English. David introduced me to a group of beginners and said, "They just need someone to practice with. Just have a conversation with them." At first, I felt nervous. What if I messed up? What if they realized I wasn't perfect? But then I looked at their faces. They weren't judging me. They were just like me, people who wanted to improve but were scared to speak. So I took a deep breath and started talking. "Hi, everyone. My name is Olivia. I was in your place not too long ago. I understood English but struggled to speak. But I found some tricks that helped me, and I want to share them with you." Their eyes lit up with interest. They wanted to know how I overcame my fear. I told them about shadowing, where I repeated English sentences from movies to practice pronunciation. I explained thinking in English, a trick that helped me stop translating in my head. I shared how I forced myself to speak daily, even if it was just ordering coffee. And then, something magical happened. They started speaking. One by one, they introduced themselves, even if their sentences weren't perfect. By the end of the session, one of the students, a woman named Sophia from Brazil, said, "Olivia, you give me hope. If you did it, maybe I can too." I felt my heart swell. I had spent years feeling hopeless about my English, but now I was the one giving hope to others. A real test of my skills. As I continued volunteering at the Language Exchange Center, my confidence grew even more. I was speaking English every day, helping others, and meeting people from different cultures. Then something happened that truly tested how far I had come. One evening, David called me and said, "Olivia, we have a special guest tomorrow, a CEO from a big company. He wants to observe our sessions. I want you to lead the conversation group." I nearly dropped my phone. Lead a group in front of a CEO? I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell David that I wasn't good enough. But then I thought about everything I had learned. So I said, "I'll do it." The next day, I stood in front of 20 students, with the CEO sitting quietly in the back. My hands were shaking, but I reminded myself, I wasn't here to be perfect. I was here to communicate. I led the discussion, asked questions, encouraged students to speak, and even shared a funny story about my own struggles. After the session, the CEO walked up to me. "Olivia, I'm impressed," he said. "You have a natural ability to make people feel comfortable. We need people like you in corporate training. Have you ever thought about teaching professionally?" I was speechless. A year ago, I was too afraid to even introduce myself in English. And now, someone thought I could teach it professionally? Looking back, moving forward. That night, I sat down and reflected on my journey. I had spent years trapped in my fear of speaking English, but little by little, step by step, I had pushed myself forward. And now, not only was I confident, but I was helping others become confident too. If I could go back in time and talk to the old Olivia, the girl who was too scared to order coffee, too nervous to speak in class, I would tell her, "One day you'll speak without fear. One day people will look up to you for guidance. One day you'll inspire others. Just keep going. And if you're reading this and you're struggling to speak English, This is your reminder that you can do it too. It won't happen overnight. It won't be easy. But if you take small steps every day, one day, you'll look back and realize you've come further than you ever imagined. A new opportunity, and an even bigger challenge. After the CEO's words, something inside me shifted. For the first time in my life, I saw myself not as someone struggling with English, but as someone who could actually help others. David noticed my progress too. One evening after our session at the Language Exchange Center, he pulled me aside and said, "Olivia, I have an opportunity for you. One of our corporate clients is looking for a language coach to help their employees improve their spoken English. It's a paid position." I blinked. A paid position? Me? Teaching professionals? David smiled, reading my hesitation. "I know it sounds scary, but you're ready. You've been leading groups here. You connect with people. That's more important than being perfect in English." I hesitated for a moment. My instinct was to say, "No, I'm not good enough." But then I thought, what if I was? So I swallowed my fear and said, "I'd love to do it." My first day as a professional language coach, a week later, I walked into the office of Bright Tech Solutions, a growing IT company that had hired me to train their employees in conversational English. I was greeted by the HR manager, Lisa, who said, "We have 10 employees in the program. They understand English but struggle with confidence, just like you did. That's why we thought you'd be a great fit." Her words gave me courage. They hired me because of my journey, not despite it. But when I entered the meeting room and saw 10 professionals, software engineers, designers, and managers, all waiting for me to teach them, the nerves hit me again. What if they questioned my ability? What if they expected a real teacher? I took a deep breath and introduced myself. "Hi, everyone. My name is Olivia. I understand exactly how you feel because I was just like you. I understood English but couldn't speak. I was afraid of making mistakes, but I found ways to overcome that fear, and today I want to share them with you." I saw their expressions change: relief, curiosity, even excitement. They weren't here to judge me. They were here because they needed help. So I started the session. I asked them to introduce themselves, and some hesitated, just like I used to. One man, Rahul, said, "I know English, but when I speak, I forget words." I smiled. "That used to happen to me too. But don't worry, we'll work on it together." For the next hour, we practiced thinking in English, having casual conversations, and even role-playing office scenarios. By the end, everyone was speaking more comfortably. Lisa, the HR manager, watched the entire session. When it ended, she walked up to me and said, "That was amazing. Would you be open to working with us long term?" I almost couldn't believe what I was hearing. A long-term job helping professionals improve their English? "Yes," I said, feeling a rush of pride. "I'd love to." A full circle moment that night. I sat by my window, looking out at the city lights, thinking about how much had changed. Just a year ago, I was too scared to even raise my hand in class. Now I was standing in front of professionals, teaching them the very thing that once terrified me. I thought about every small step that had brought me here. The first time I ordered coffee, the time I practiced speaking with James, the day I gave my university presentation. Sharing your journey of overcoming the fear of speaking English. Let me know if you're interested. I read the email twice. A guest speaker? Me? My first instinct was to panic. Speaking in front of a crowd? A year ago, that would have been impossible for me. But then I remembered. This was exactly the kind of challenge that had helped me grow. So I replied, I'd be honored. The day of the seminar, the day arrived, and I stood backstage, holding my notes. The seminar hall was filled with professionals from different countries. People who, just like me, had struggled with English at some point. I took a deep breath and walked onto the stage. Hello, everyone. My name is Olivia, and just a year ago, I was too scared to even introduce myself in English. The audience sat up, listening. I knew English. I understood movies. I could read books. But when it came to speaking, I felt stuck. I was afraid of making mistakes. I thought people would judge me. So, for years, I stayed silent. I paused, looking at the faces in the crowd. Some were nodding, as if they had felt the same way. But then, I realized something. The only way to get better was to start speaking, no matter how imperfectly. I started small, ordering coffee, having short conversations, pushing myself a little more every day. And today, I stand here, speaking in front of all of you. The room was silent for a moment, then applause filled the hall. I smiled, feeling a deep sense of pride. This was the moment I had once thought was impossible. A full circle moment. After the seminar, many people came up to me. A man from Japan said, "Your story inspired me. I've been afraid to speak English for years, but now I want to try." A woman from Germany said, "I realized that I've been too hard on myself. I need to practice more and stop worrying about mistakes." And then Lisa, the HR manager, approached me. "Olivia," she said, smiling, "you're not just a language coach anymore. You're a motivational speaker." I laughed. A year ago, I wouldn't have believed it. But now, it felt right. The road ahead. That night, as I walked home, I thought about my journey. I used to believe that speaking English fluently was impossible for me. But now, I had not only improved, I had helped others improve too. And this was just the beginning. I had learned something important. Confidence in English isn't about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to speak. If you're reading this and struggling with English, I want you to remember that. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to wait until you feel ready. You just have to start. Because every time you speak, you're one step closer to fluency. And one day, just like me, you'll look back and realize